Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the podcast you come to when you're finally ready to take fantasy hockey seriously. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. In this podcast, Blake and I are going to tell you how to win in Week 8 of the fantasy season. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend. It's Blake Creamer. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
I feel good, buddy. I feel excellent, actually. This has been an amazing week of fantasy here for me personally. I'm having the week of my life in a bunch of spots. And my freaking opponents are having the week of their lives too. What the hell is going on? Nate, squashed me last week, for his first win in the APL. Congratulations to you, buddy. Well-deserved, right? He's smoking it again here this week. This guy's getting on a roll. That's fine. And now I'm up against him in another league, the Fantasy Puck Creator League. And I'm dominating. I have the best points for. I'm just going to absolutely brag here. I don't give a damn. Okay, I'm dominating. And this guy's hanging around. What do you have to say for yourself, Nathaniel?
I'm just I do feel like I'm getting into the swing of the season finally. I do feel like my fantasy game was like rusty at the start of the season in a weird way. I don't know, but I do feel like I'm getting there. I've got some of these squads under control again. And yeah, I'm coming for you in the Content Creators League, that's for sure. We are number 1 and number 2 in projected fantasy points for at the moment.
Who's number one, though?
I don't think that's really that important, just that we're both at the top.
Semantics.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a great week overall. I'm also
Yep.
leading in most of my leagues, so that feels good. Also feels good to have the PWHL back in action.
Let's
We're
go.
repping it here if you're watching on YouTube. And Blake's got to get himself some Vancouver Golden Knights gear, especially after a big OT win here tonight. What do you have to say for yourself about the Victoire jersey you're repping?
Yeah, I'll rep it for now. I got this last year at Christmas time, so I'll get myself a Golden Knights jersey here this Christmas. I mean, if anybody has my wife's information, definitely just message her on the side, slide into the DMs.
What?
I'm taking it to a weird area. I don't know. It sounded funnier in my head, but anyways, Maggie, if you're listening, I would like a Vancouver Golden Knights jersey for Christmas. Okay, thank you.
What are the odds that your wife is listening to this podcast right now?
She really likes to put this out of her mind. She likes to pretend that it doesn't exist, right? And that's fine. It works for us.
All right. Well, why don't we dig into what we have on the docket tonight? And that starts with some newsies.
Newsies. Do we have news today?
It's a little bit.
How about this, folks? Connor Hellebuyck injured. Oh my God, this is terrible. Yeah, he's undergoing a minor arthroscopic knee procedure. Nate put these in the notes just to try and get me to say them on the air, and I'm doing it. I don't care. But yeah, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. This is wild stuff. So yeah, fire up your Eric Comries, folks. I think that if Hellebuyck is out for the 6 weeks, that's going to be around 20 games. Sheesh. And are they really going to roll out this rookie here in Winnipeg? Like, what's that guy's name again, Nate? You said his name, but I don't remember.
Thomas Milic.
All right. That's what's called the bottom of the barrel, folks. All right. So, yeah, get yourself some Eric Comrie. I picked him up in a bunch of spots. But, that said, too, he's not – I don't think you need to rush out and quickly add Eric Comrie. Like, it's a great ad. There's no question. But I added him in those spots because it made sense for my teams. Right. I was already rostering 0G type goalies. Right. So I've seen some interesting ones out there, Nate. Now I'll put this to you. Would you take Eric Comrie over Jacob Markstrom?
No.
Would you take Eric Comrie over Joey Decord?
That's a tough one, actually. Especially Seattle has a weak schedule next week, which we're going to get into here. I think I might.
Oh, dang. Okay. Last one. Would you take Eric Comrie over Linus Ullmark?
Probably not, just because Allmark has a lot of runway there in Ottawa. They're tied to him for such a long time. Big contracts. Like, I feel a lot more assured of Allmark's starts. I think he's likely going to round into form at some point here,
Here's hoping. Yeah.
theoretically.
Spectacles,
Uh,
testicles, wallet, and watch. All right. We got
yeah, I think Allmark, like the last two games that he's been in have been actually not too bad. He hasn't allowed 4 goals in a start in the last five, which is not a great metric, but it's where we're at with Linus Allmark these days. So,
yeah.
yeah, it has gotten slightly better as of late, and I think I'm willing to stick it out with Allmark there, just because the long-term outlook is a little more assured.
Yep, absolutely. Sorry, I do have one more, Nate. I got to hear this.
Okay,
Akira Schmid or Eric Comrie? Who you taking?
that one is pretty tough too. I think
They both got
I
a
mean,
shelf life, right?
they both have a shelf life for sure. Schmid has actually been pretty good his last three outings here. 1 goal against, 2 goals against, 1 goal against. I think I might stick with Schmid there just because we have kind of proof of concept. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Comrie's just terrible um, pretty quickly in a kind of starter role. And they actually
Yep.
do like at least 50-50 it with Milic. Milic has got great AHL numbers, 921 in the AHL so far this year. So, like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not what I expect, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. Whereas Schmid really does seem to be, at least in the latest data sample we have, he does seem to be playing pretty well in an established situation.
Yeah, I love that. That's just, I just thought that'd be interesting for the listeners here. I do really like the Eric Comrie ad. I mean, we're not really selling it here. I think he's a great 0G option,
Yep.
and I've got him in 4 spots. So we'll see what happens. He got pumped tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Comrie. Why are you doing this? Anyways, let's move on over to Carolina, the team that did the pumping. All right. That's a good segue. Alexander Nikishin was healthy scratched by RBA because why not? Rod, we haven't said your name in a little while here. So, he's gotta get back at the fantasy hockey community, and this is what he's doing about it. So yeah, I mean, that doesn't bode well for me. Like his reasoning was something crazy, like, oh, we wanted to get a different handed defenseman in there, or yeah, we wanted to give some guys a break. It's like these guys are good to go, especially Alexander Nikishin. Okay, he's good to go, Rod. He doesn't need a break. So it's not a great look. I just think that, we got to keep an eye on it. But I mean, that's not what I want to see for my Alexander Nikishin stocks there moving forward. But Keandre Miller, he's doing stuff out there. My God, he's actually having a nice little season. Anyways, sticking with Carolina, nothing could be finer. Pyotr Kochetkov was supposed to go tonight as well, but he didn't feel good, quote unquote. So Bussy got the nod. And I wanted to put this to you, Nate. Like, still on the goalies, what is your take on the 3 goalie that they're doing there in Carolina? Are any of these guys even rosterable for fantasy?
It's really tough right now to roster anybody. Like, maybe Bussy is like gonna just be the guy who sits in the press box, and the only reason he got this one was just because of Kochetkov coming out, and he really is just like a third option that maybe gets a start in like a condensed week where they have 4 games anyway and a couple back-to-backs or something like that. That
Yep.
might be the case, but either way, like, it's really tough. It was tough for me to roster Anderson and Kochetkov before just because of the 50-50 nature. Now you add a third guy into the mix, and it's getting more and more difficult to justify it. Yeah, at this point, it's really hard to predict the
Yeah.
next starts as well, which is what I'm always trying to do, and trying to make sure that I'm getting 2 starts out of any goaltender that I'm rostering for any given week. And with that kind of being out the window, yeah, it's getting really tough. Same thing happening in Buffalo, right? As well, with Lyon, with UPL, with Colton Ellis, who's randomly been getting more starts.
Yeah.
That wasn't on anybody's bingo card that Colton Ellis would be the guy to get the call up from the AHL and get a bunch of starts. So, yeah, same thing happening in Buffalo. Really tough to roster goaltenders in either spot at the moment.
Yep. Good stuff. Agree with all that. Let's move over to Toronto. Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes. The Matthews, all right, they're doubtful for Saturday's game against Montreal. That's rough stuff. I thought Matthews was sort of trending towards playing Saturday. So I don't know, man. Just don't go to Germany. Don't go see another doctor. Just stick around, please. Like, just have it be a normal injury. Get back to biz. It's weird to see Matthews without Marner here, and kind of the landscape there in Toronto, and the offense. We talked a little bit about the environment there in Toronto as well, and yeah, I'm usually pretty bullish on Austin Matthews, and this year I'm taking a step back a little bit. I feel I don't have him anywhere. I would have drafted him if I had the opportunity because I love Austin Matthews, but yeah, it just feels like something's a little bit off, and we don't know what this injury is that he's dealing with. So I don't know. All that to say, they're probably doubtful for Saturday. So yeah, I mean, who's is anybody benefiting on Toronto from these injuries? Like Matthias Michelli, like Cowan looks like he's getting a bunch of minutes.
Yeah, Cowan's getting more minutes. Tavares is playing an insane amount, which is the number one kind of benefactor, and he's staying red hot as a result. Yeah, that's the one thing. Apparently, Chris Johnston, I saw like, one of those like graphics where somebody like posts a picture of a quote. Apparently, according to that random
Got
post,
to be
which I
true.
can't find back now anymore, is that Chris Johnston said that he has heard that it's a muscle thing with Matthews, which would actually probably be best case scenario. It's not something more structural, and it's like a small muscle tear or something that is just taking a couple weeks here to heal. So, yeah, if that's true, that's probably best case scenario for Matthews.
Yeah, just needs one of those Swedish massages from Willie Nylander, right? Can you try say that 3 times fast? Swedish massage. Go ahead, Nate.
No, I think I'm good.
All right, I think that's fine. That's the people don't want to hear that anyway. That's totally fine. Anyways, let's move on to Buffalo. The Butler, Zach Benson, he's alive. He has a chance to play on Sunday. We got to check the deployment, obviously, but yeah, but I mean, Buffalo pounded the Hawks here tonight, 9-3. Wow, that's a crazy score, and everybody was getting in on it. Jason Zucker, Big Pippin, he got back in the game here, 3 points, pretty nice if you picked him up for a Buffalo stream. Doan got 2 goals, and now Benson's coming back. So I think Benson is absolutely viable for fantasy if he does get that power play one. If not, it's streamer level stuff for sure. Moving over to Nashville, Roman Yossi is closey. He's close to returning. I said closey again twice. It's not my best work, but yeah, he's been practicing since Wednesday. Could be close to return. So keep an eye on that. The Predators sorely need this guy's offensive production and play driving ability out there. Oh my God, it's terrible. So yeah, keep an eye on that. I'll get ready to fire him up. In Chicago, Andre Burakovsky didn't play against Buffalo here on Friday. Yeah, after taking a hit to the head, kind of a cheap shot in my opinion. I hate hits like that. Really no reason for it. And yeah, this guy's going to potentially miss some time. So that stinks. And it stinks for Bedard too, because I really do think that Burakovsky and Bedard had some nice chemistry brewing there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, 2 games without Burakovsky, and the Hawks have looked pretty rough defensively, which is weird. So and lastly, Victor Hedman. See you at the party, Victor. This guy's been partying a little too hard. He's still a couple weeks away. This is rough stuff. Darren Radish, anybody? Are you rostering Darren Radish on any squads this year, Nate?
Yeah, there's one spot with Darren Radish, and I've been enjoying that.
Me too. I got him in Cuffle where I'm 0-6, folks. So yeah, thank you, Darren Radish, for contributing to that. Crushing blow to my fantasy ego. But that's it, folks. That's the Newsies. Nate, we gotta get the biz. We gotta attack the hell out of that schedule week 8.
All right, let's attack that schedule. We have Monday with 7 games. We have Tuesday with 1 game. We have Wednesday with 15 games. We have Thursday with 0 games. We have Friday with 15 games. We have Saturday with 11 games. And we have Sunday with 4 games. Yeah, what are we going to do here? With 53 total games played, normal week. That's great. There's nothing else normal about this week. Nobody with a Sunday Monday back to back, so you're not getting any good stuff Sunday Monday streaming. There are no teams with any of the off nights that we typically look at because we basically don't get off nights in this week. And realistically, it's just pretty horrible across the board. So, what can we do in a week like this? I think realistically, you just kind of have to lean in. You have to say these single game goalie streams are probably going to be a lot of the best thing that I can do on my team this week. The way that I can most maximize my potential to affect my outcome in my matchup, but also thinking about the long-term ads, thinking about the overall structure of your team. Do I need to go searching on the wire for, some positional dual eligibility, a guy that I might be able to hold if things go right this week? And this might be the week where you grab that guy, and maybe he doesn't even play for you, but you're probably going to be benching players anyway this week, and you just figure out what you have in that player, and maybe you get lucky and you end up holding on to that player for a while. This is the week to do that if you need to do that for your roster. If you've dealt with some of these injuries that have kind of plagued the NHL in the last week or so, if you're dealing with that, this might be the week to go out and grab that guy who might be able to fix some of that for you moving forward. The best stream I can say player wise is basically going for a single day Monday stream and then go to a Dallas player for Tuesday and Sunday off nights. That's pretty much the best you're going to be able to do in terms of using a roster spot to get some streaming in. There are three teams that you can, I guess, categorize as week long streams. That would be Dallas, Ottawa, and Washington. They both have 2 off nights. They are the only 3 teams with 2 off nights on the week. So that is the week this week. Blake, you got anything to add there?
It's gross, but yeah, I really like what you had to say there. I find that a lot of times in fantasy hockey, people are so reactive, right? And sometimes that makes a lot of sense. But in this case, yeah, take a proactive look at your team and see what you can do to benefit it moving forward, because you're kind of going to be stuck with the players you have, right? So you can't really control very much this week. So yeah, have a look ahead and pick up some players that you're going to like moving forward.
All right, Blake, why don't you do something for the people? Why don't you lower those expectations?
You bet, buddy. Every time I get on the mic, those expectations get lowered. Total buffoon over here. Oh my God. That is such a harsh burn when someone calls you a total buffoon. I mean, what do you say to that, Nate? What has anyone
Um,
ever called you a total buffoon?
I don't recall that one ever being used, but I think there are some good standbys. You can say, "No, you." That's
Right.
always been a favorite of mine personally. I don't
Effective.
know. Yeah, you got any others that you've used in the past?
Yeah, you know what I do? I tell my kids if kids are being mean to them, like, first off, did you ever see Dumb and Dumber? You saw this, right?
Yes.
Okay. Remember when Jim Carrey comes out of the 7-Eleven, there's those two guys there just drinking pops, and he's like,
Mm-hmm. Big
"Hey
gulps.
guys, big gulps. Hey, all right, we'll see you later." That's what I say when I tell my kids to do that. I'm like, if someone says something mean to you, just say "big gulps." Hey, all right, well, see you later, and then just walk away. And my son does it actually. It's really funny. Yeah. So, and I told my daughter, she's like, "Well, I don't want to say that." I'm like, "Well, say celebrate your day. Bye for now." She's like, "Okay." So she says, "Celebrate your day. Bye for now." So those are my two go tos right
You didn't
now.
wanna you didn't wanna tell her to say much love.
You know what? I'll throw it in there, right? Because that's good as well. But should we be loving these people? Yes, actually, you're right. We should. We should love them more because they're very sad inside. All
Mm.
right. Yeah. So I got much love for all the people out there. Anyways, I'm sorry about this. Let's talk about the lowered expectations. It's the worst teams to stream and potentially drop players from. And yeah, like the lowered expectations and the crossing the streams here this week, it's a little muted, right? You're not going to be wanting to make big moves here, I don't think, because it's just such a bad week and you can't affect that much with the streams that you do. But that said, let's look into it. There is one team that has a particularly bad schedule, and it is the Seattle Kraken. They play the 15-game Wednesday, and then they play the 11-game Saturday. So just a 2-game week with 0 off nights. And yeah, like they had a decent streaming week here in week 7. So we're going to be looking at dropping some of these players here, starting with guys like Jaden Schwartz, Jordan Eberle, who are kind of their top guns, air quotes, right? I also rostered Eli Tolvanen in a spot, and he had a nice week for me here, hitting some periffs and got some points on the board as well. Jared McCann as well. Like I don't know, where are we at with Jared McCann? Is he ever going to come back? Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's just if you're in a spot where Jared McCann is not in an IR spot and you're not even thinking about him, then this is weak. You definitely have to drop him.
Makes some sense to me. So what are you doing with those Kraken players? Are you releasing the Kraken?
I would absolutely release the Kraken outside of Montour and Dunn. I think you can release all the Kraken all at once.
The Kraken have been released. Get out of the water, everybody. Oh my God, we're in danger. All right, he's got those tentacles. He's going to get you. Um, I don't know. Just get on land. Kraken can't do anything. All right. I've said this before and I'll say it again. All right. And then you get one of those harpoon guns and you just get the biz, right? I wouldn't kill it, right? But you definitely want to, maim it, right? Get one of the tentacles, take that down, right? Teach them a lesson. Sorry, folks. Let's move on. Next team, Edmonton Oilers play 2 games with 1 off night. They play the Tuesday, which is a 1 game, and they play against Dallas. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like if you're holding an Edmonton streamer, just keep them until after the Tuesday and then bounce them, right? And then they play the 11 games Saturday. So, and these streamers we're talking about, Roslovic, yeah, he was off power play 1 last game. That's a weird development because he was having such success there. But Edmonton's, yeah, it's been a rough go there with the goals allowed, the defensive environment, the goaltending, really rough. But Roslovic is one of those guys for sure. Matthias Ekholm, I don't see any reason to be holding him for a week like this if you don't need to. Jake Wallman, that's getting a little spicy for me, but still, I mean, what are you going to do there? And Darnell Nurse, yeah, I don't know. Like, I like this 2-goal game that Nurse had the other night. But talk to me about these players. Like, where's that cutoff line for you with the Oilers?
Yeah, I think it's valid to question all of these players. Jake Wallman hasn't scored a point in 6 straight games, and yeah, hasn't really had a great season so far. Nurse was trending terribly and then pops 2 goals, and now he's back in everybody's good books, but it's pretty possible that he doesn't have much to offer next week either. Ekholm hasn't scored a point in forever either, but his peripherals have been really good and his underlines look really good. Also, 6 games for Ekholm since he's last recorded a point. So
Crazy.
yeah, all these guys are on the board. I think it really does come down to your league. I would definitely hold them all 4 of these guys through that Tuesday off night and at least get that game played out of them before getting off of them. But if you do see somebody out there, like if somebody gets dropped and you want to make a waiver claim or something like that, if somebody who gets dropped who shouldn't be dropped is out there, then yeah, these guys are definitely in play for me as guys that I would potentially move on from in a week like this.
Yep. I mean, it's kind of like that all year, honestly. I mean, Darnell Nurse, I'd like to hold for the year. I think he's does enough peripherally, but yeah, it's going to be slim pickings here this week. It'll also be interesting to see what your league mates do. Right? Are people out there streaming hard, trying to get games played in? Because it's going to be really rough. Like Nate said, if people are dropping players they shouldn't be dropping, that's where you swoop in, right? And you pick up these players and you get the biz. Let's move on to the next bunch of teams here. There are 10 teams that play 3 games with 0 off nights. And I'll run through them here really quick. Boston Bruins, Buffalo Sabres, Colorado Avalanche, Minnesota Wild, Montreal Canadiens, Pittsburgh Penguins, San Jose Sharks, Toronto Maple Leafs, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Winnipeg Jets. So let's, again, we're just trying to determine where's this cutoff line here, Nate. And again, I'll preface, you don't need to cut these guys, right? It's a garbage week. So if you like a player that we're talking about, like, just hang on and maybe you take an L. You know what I mean? It's a bad week for streaming and fantasy hockey. So anyways, we'll start in Boston here. Pavel Zacha, Elias Lindholm, where they're on the board here. And Zadorov, I'm going to shout myself out. I just streamed this man in for 2 games. He got 2 assists tonight, Nate. Look, what a prognosticator right here. Unbelievable. Give it to me, Neil. Give it to me, Neil. Come on. You got anything? Neil? Neil Gruden-Nimblick.
Uh,
No,
I think we've established that we're not going to
that's your
go that route,
no,
but
that's your evil alter ego.
okay. Um, all these guys have interest. Like Zadorov, if you picked him up this week for a points league, then yeah, probably I'm not interested in continuing to roster him. But in a Bangers Cats setup, like he's been throwing a ton of hits this year,
Dominant.
so really pretty happy to roster him through a week like this. And honestly, like Saka's underlings look quite good. I think I'm probably trying to hang on to him. I'm probably trying to hang on to, I think you said Elias
Yeah, I
Lindholm,
said Elias.
Hampus
Yeah, I just
Lindholm.
realized
Yeah,
that. Yeah, they got 2 Lindholms. All right, it's very
they do.
confusing.
Hampus Lindholm, I'm also trying to hang on to. It's going to be a while before McAvoy's back. Hampus Lindholm looks pretty good there. The underlings are backing it up. I'm actually kind of into that. So yeah, I'm not in a hurry to get off of any of these Boston guys.
Yep, totally agree there. Let's move on to Buffalo, and yeah, it's a little bit less value here. We're looking at a guy like Bo Byram who has been playing really well as of late, so I like that. Had a goal here tonight. Not too shabby, right? But there's some other players there too, like some of these power play 1 guys like Isaac Rosen. You got Ryan McLeod, who was the top streamer for us here this last week. Any interest in, like, Well, first off, what are you doing with Byram and then anyone below Byram? Like, if you're dropping Byram, you're probably dropping anyone below him as well. Is that kind of track for you?
Yeah, I don't think you have to drop Byram. We're getting actually some pretty good under the hood results in the last little bit, and obviously everybody on Buffalo had a good night here against Chicago, so that's going to further improve his statistics. So I'm kind of happy to hang on to Byram this week again. In a week like this, where it doesn't feel like it's going to make that big of a difference, and it feels like we might be looking at something here with Byram where he could actually fit into your roster as a fourth defenseman on your team for quite some time. Maybe not the whole season, but
Yeah.
he could get on a little bit of a run here, be good for a month, and then maybe in another month you reevaluate. But if that's where we're at with Byram, I think I might hang on to him. Josh Stone playing on that top line there with Tage Thompson, Alex
Looks
Tuck,
good here.
and that looking good. That might be another guy that in a week like this, you think to yourself, well, if there's nobody better on my waiver wire, anybody I'm more excited about than Josh Stone, I might hang on to him this week. So definitely you have to kind of work that through for yourself. But I think I don't think you have to hang on to anybody on Buffalo. The most likely scenario for all these guys is that it kind of regresses and they do keep kind of continuing to cycle through different lines. And really, the only guys you can end up counting on at the end of the day are like Tuck and Thompson. But overall, I think I am pretty okay with staying in the flames, staying with guys who are hot and seeing if they can keep it up another week and if they can turn into something a little bit more long term on your squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. And, even more to that point here, like it might be worth looking into the week after week 8. So looking at week 9 and seeing who has a good schedule in week 9. Like that should be part of your decision making process, right? If you're like, oh, I want to get off this player, but like I'm looking at it right now. Anaheim, San Jose both have perfect schedules next week. I mean, Buffalo has 3 games, 3 off nights. So maybe you want to hold on to some of these guys like a Josh Doan, like a Bo Byram, like you said, because they do have such a great schedule the week upcoming. So just kind of part of our thought process when we're looking at streamers and who we're going to drop. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Let's move on to Colorado. Again, 3 games, 0 off nights. We're looking at guys like Devin Taves, Brent Burns, Brock Nelson. I don't mind dropping any of those guys. I think Taves is, I don't know. I like the security of Taves. He seems like a prototypical like fourth or fifth defenseman on your squad that will occasionally get some points. Obviously, like it hasn't been going well as of late. Only one point in his last 5 games. Still good minutes. He's playing with Makar, but yeah, it's not exciting. I feel like those 3 guys, Taves, Burns, and Nelson, I feel okay to drop, although Nelson has 6 points in 5 games. That's fine. But Olofsson with the power play 1 exposure, even with only 2 points in 5 games, I don't know. That's going to be a player I'm going to have to kind of noodle on a little bit because I have him in a couple spots and I'm kind of wondering what to do with him.
I think that's fair. I don't think you have to hang on to any of these guys. I do think that it's just as likely to me that Nelson is on power play 1 and Olofsson is off by this time next week. So that's something I might consider as well. Is if Nelson is hot right now, I might hang on to him just to see if he stays hot and if that hot streak results in him getting put on power play 1 at some point here, since Olofsson's efficiency has definitely fallen off in the last little bit.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider as well. The defenseman, it really seems like the fantasy relevant days for Devin Taves are probably behind us, and he's becoming more and more content to just stay at home and be a terrific defensive zone and transition defender and let Cale Makar do all the highlight reel stuff. So that does seem to be what we're likely to get from Devin Taves moving forward. Brent Burns is fun, but definitely not a guy you have to hang on to in this week.
Yep. Totally agree with all that. Let's move on to Minnesota here, and we got some bits and pieces. You got Brock Faber. Yeah, he's doing stuff out there, but he was for a little bit, not so much anymore. Zeev Bouillon still was he power play 1 here today? I didn't
Yeah.
check, but okay, so yeah, you're looking at a power play 1 defenseman, but he's not really delivering out there. You got Marcus Johansson, that absolute unit. I mean, coming off a massive point streak. Now he only has 3 points in 5 games. What do you have to say about that, Nate?
um, I, I mean, just about all these guys in general. I like, I like
Deflection,
Williams'
folks.
skill.
That's what he's doing right now. All right. But Nate hates Marcus Johansson. All right. What did Marcus Johansson ever do to you?
Uh, didn't score a lot of points for a
That's
very
true.
long
That's
time.
actually true. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Rock Faber's interesting just because of the raw minutes. I think Zebuyam is interesting because of the power play one, because I think he's actually pretty talented. He's just really, he's a really rookie defenseman, is what I was going to say there.
That works.
So I think it's just pretty obvious that Jay Hines is not going to unlock the full Zeev Buyam experience in year one. And we just need to be aware of that and accept the fact that Williams probably gonna not play a ton of minutes, give us some good power play stuff when he's on the power play, but he seems like they're gonna rotate that power play around a little bit. Zuccarello should be rostered. We know this. He should not be in consideration for drop. Johansson, you can drop anytime.
Yep. Unfortunately, I agree. All right. Roster that zucchini. All right. Get him in your life. Just get him out of your bread. All right. We don't need that. You ever make zoodles, Nate? You ever do that?
No,
You know what I'm talking about? You just did like a spiralizer. You do that with the zucchini, and then you put the pasta sauce on top of you.
no.
All right. Hit me up in the comments if you've ever had a zoodle. All right, Nate, you uncultured swine. All right. What are you doing? It's not true. He's very cultured. He's very sophisticated. I'm projecting. Anyways, let's move on. Montreal Canadiens, Nate. Another team we want to talk about here. Yaroslavkovsky, the professor Mike Matheson playing pretty damn well, although the team is not, right? They just got pounded 8-4. But I read a lot of tweets. I watched some highlights about Mike Matheson. Like he's looking great out there. Ivan Demidov, Zach Bolduc is getting some increase in deployment here. Talk to me about the Canadiens.
Yeah, this has gotten a little bit weird for the Canadians. They lose their number 2 and number 3 center, and that kind of throws everything for a loop there.
Yep.
And I mean, rightfully so. So lately we've been getting Zach Bolduc and Jared Savkovsky on the top power play. If that continues, then you might want to consider hanging on to them. But Bolduc's underlines have really taken a hit over the last little bit, and Slavkovsky is pointless in his last 5. The underlines are a little better there for Slavkovsky, and yeah, you're not getting Slavkovsky on the top line anymore, which is of concern. He's playing with Demidov, which I guess is okay, but Kapanen is the other piece of that line. They didn't even get the second most even
Yeah.
strength time on ice in the last game against the Capitals. Maybe it's just because that was a weird game, who knows, but it was Zach Bolduc up on the top line. So if Bolduc's going to get top line, top power play for a bit here, you probably hang on to him just to see where it goes, because we have seen proof of concept with the player, albeit for a short period of time, where that was really working. So I'm probably trying to hang on to Bolduc. I'm probably trying to hang on to Slavkovsky because you feel like he's going to be power play 1 and most likely line 1 for most of the season still. Matheson and Demidov, I'm feeling less likely that you have to hang on to them. But again, the talent of a guy like Demidov and the potential for him for everything to just click the way it did for a guy like Will Smith last year, that might be the kind of potential that you want to hang on to in a week like this. So that might be a spot where you also hang on.
Yep, I love that. Let's move over to Pittsburgh here. Surprising team this year. Crazy surprise, the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm just digging in real quick on their team. They still have the first overall power play percentage. The Penguins, what? And they got pumped tonight 5-0. So maybe that's, excluding tonight's game here. But the PK is 5th best. Their goaltending's been amazing. Their expected goals for the environment there is 10th at 5-on-5. Like, I don't know. Pittsburgh's looking pretty good. So that said, I mean, we've got some players here that are going to be on the bubble, and we're looking at Chris Letang, Anthony Mantha. Mantha's a really interesting one. I'm curious your take there, just because of the minutes, right? He's getting good even strength deployment, and he's doing something with it, but the minutes are terrible. And then Ben Kindell, like we were excited about him for a hot minute, but 2 points in 5 games, not really ringing the bell. What are you doing with these Pens?
Yeah, I think you can drop all of them if you need to. Letang's minutes have come down a little bit as of late, and obviously he's not on the top power play. Kindell is still on the top power play, so that's happening, but he's playing with Tommy Novak and Sam Poulin at even strength, which is not exactly a recipe for success. Connor Dewar is playing on the top line with Crosby and Rust, so that's how things are going in Pittsburgh at the moment. Mantha, I just can't roster a guy with under
Yep.
14 minutes average time on ice in the last 5 games. I just can't physically bring myself to do it. I think he's having a nice year and it's a good story, but unless he's going to get power play one or they are going to play that line more at even strength, I just don't think you can consistently count on him.
Yeah, you got to wonder why. Like, why would they not give him the minutes? Is he just so horrible on the defensive side of the puck? Like, maybe, right? And that's going to cap him for fantasy for sure. So, yeah. Anyways, that's an interesting piece. Let's move over to San Jose. We got Will Smith, Tyler Toffoli, William Eklund, Dmitry Orlov, and Philip Kurashev out there in these fantasy hockey streets for the Sharks. I'm not dropping Smith. I'm not dropping Toffoli or Eklund. I think those are probably guys I'm holding. I don't know if you're agreeing with me there, but Orlov and Kurashev, you think that's maybe the cutoff there, Nate?
Yeah, Toffoli is also on the block for me at the
Mm.
moment. He's not a locked and loaded power play one guy. They did try some five forward stuff, and he was on that group when they took Klingberg off the top power play, but it's not guaranteed. At even strength, he's been playing with Eklund and Wenberg, so away from Celebrini and Will Smith, which is obviously the best place to be for fantasy production. So Toffoli is on the line for me. You don't have to in a week like this, but if you need to, then I would definitely support anyone doing that. Orlov and Khrushchev, I would have no qualms about getting rid of if I needed to. Orlov, his points have really fallen off, and Khrushchev is a nobody to me, honestly.
True, hurtful. Oh my God. Philip Kurashev catching strays on the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Buddy, we know you're a good person, all right? But for fantasy, you stink. All right, let's move on. Toronto Maple Leafs, OEL, Morgan Riley. Any interest in getting off either of these players?
Yeah, at the moment, Riley's back on power play one and doing a little bit of stuff. Ekman Larson's been playing a lot more minutes with the injuries to the blue line there. Doesn't seem like Carlo and Tanev are coming back anytime soon. So both these guys are getting big minutes. The underlines look not too bad. I'm hanging on to both.
You bet, buddy. Oh God, it doesn't feel good rostering OEL though. It's like, oh yeah, I got OEL out here. It's like, isn't there anybody better? No. All right, that's fine. Let's move on to Vancouver. Speaking of nobody better, we got some teams here. Sorry, some players. Kiefer Sherwood. You better not drop Kiefer Sherwood. I don't even care. All right, you're not dropping Kiefer Sherwood. Don't do it. All right. Philip Hronik, Brock Besser, Evander Kane, Jake DeBrusk, Garland. No, don't drop these players. For God's sake, Nate, are you dropping any of these guys?
I would definitely consider it if I needed to. I don't think any of these guys are like gonna win you your league this year. So if you needed to, you probably could. That being said, I am trying to hang on to the power play one guys there. Right now, that's Besser, DeBrusk, and Sherwood. Garland, I think, is going to get enough time on ice just as a coach's favorite that he's probably rosterable in a lot of leagues. At least deeper 12-team leagues and 14-team leagues for sure. And then as you get lighter than that, then maybe it's more of a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about where I'm at. I think there's potential for more, I guess. Like, I still like Kane's underlying stats a fair bit, and he's getting almost 20 minutes a night. So it is pretty top heavy there in Vancouver at the moment in terms of ice time, and that's obviously good for fantasy purposes. Jake DeBrusk is finally doing a little bit of stuff 3 goals, 4 points in his last five. So that's happening. 15th individual expected goals for per 60 over the last five. Yeah, there's some good stuff under the hood happening for some of these guys in Vancouver at the moment, so I don't think you have to, but I definitely wouldn't feel terrible about dropping any of them. I don't think they're going to make or break your fantasy season.
Yeah, it's rough. I have Sherwood and Kane in a spot, and I want to drop Kane, but he just keeps doing just enough. You know what I mean? And like you said, the minutes and some of the underlyings are pretty good there. But yeah, Hronik, Garland, unfortunately, I think you can probably bounce if you need to. DeBrusk, he had a power play goal called back the other night. He would have tied for league lead in power play goals. Isn't that crazy? DeBrusk. Wow, what a world we live in here. All right, let's move on to the last team here, Winnipeg Jets. We're looking at Neil Pionk, Mum Spaghetti, Cole Perfetti, and Nino Niederreiter. What's your pleasure, sir?
Yeah, I don't think you have to hang on to anybody here. Neil Pionk getting almost 24 minutes a night is probably the guy you're thinking about it the longest with, especially if you don't have better options available in the waiver wire on your league. But Cole Perfetti has not really done a whole lot since he's come back to the lineup under 17 minutes a night, 2 points in his last five. I don't think it's a guy you have to hang on to.
There you go, buddy. All right, we've lowered those expectations. Now we got to raise them up a bit, and we do that in a little segment we like to call Crossing the Streams. Oh, yeah. All right. This segment here is what we call the best teams to stream, and it's also where I ramble on like a lunatic. And yeah, I did want to just quickly mention something that I've been thinking about here. Nate and I, actually, we've been talking about ice fishing for years. And remember, Nate, we've been wanting to do that. And it's just one of those someday plans that never actually happens until kind of this past like few weeks here, right? The airs turned sharp, right? And we said, let's just do it, right? And we picked Lake Winnipeg actually as a meeting point, right? Nate's in the East Coast, I'm from the West Coast, right? It felt symbolic, right? Neutral territory-ish, right? I did come a little bit further, but that's fine. And we had to invite our old brother in arms, Josh Hutchinson. All right. Former Apples and Ginos legend. We needed a full reunion. Joshy, it was so good to see you, my man. So I'm very happy about that. And so anyways, we go out, we pull up to this cabin on the lake, and it looks like something out of a postcard, right? Snow was drifting sideways. It was pretty crazy. Windshield wipers barely keeping up. I get pretty stressed out when I'm driving like that. Like, it's clearing the path, but I start to get kind of ramped up. Anyways, that's inside. And anyways, there's a soft golden light glowing from the windows of the cabin. Okay. We open the door and immediately notice the only bed, a single queen mattress. All right. When we get into the cabin there, no second bedroom, no bunk beds, right? Just one queen mattress. Nate, we look at it, right? It was kind of like, whatever. We'll see what's going on here. Nate suggested sleeping head to toe, but I aptly mentioned to him, like, our genitals are still aligned, right? So, we'll just, it's fine, right? Josh and I shut it down, right? We're good to go. It's going to be warm, right? We're definitely going to need the body heat. It was cold out there. So that's survival logic right there. Anyways, the next day we wake up, we go out, and I layered up before heading out, right? Technical base layers, moisture wicking gear, right? Which, should foreshadow, what might come here. But, and a pair of long johns I ordered from Temu at 2 a.m. All right. That I had never actually test driven. Rookie mistake on my part. But anyways, we're out there, right? We're walking out. The lake was perfect. Snow crunching under our boots, trees swaying in the distance, right? Birds chirping in that eerie winter quiet, right? You remember this, Nate. And foxes making whatever terrifying noise foxes make when they think no one can hear them. We were privy to that, okay? Then we see this little fishing hut glowing out on the ice, warm yellow light spilling through frosted windows. Am I painting a vivid picture here, Nate?
Incredibly vivid, actually.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I like that. And beside it, all right, this hut, a small outdoor bathroom stall. Okay. We knock because, we're feeling good, right? To our absolute shock, you remember who opened the door, Nate?
How could I forget?
Yeah, I know. Connor Hellebuyck. All right. He opens the door. Hart Trophy winner, Vezina guy, just out there literally chilling. Okay. And it turns out, nicest guy on earth, right? He lets us in, tells us without being asked that he loves the movie Bring It On, which, nobody knew what to do with that information. So we nodded respectfully, right? This is a legend we're talking to here. Nate starts passing out the pixie sticks and Mountain Dew like he's a chaotic scout leader, right? And at some point, he breaks into the Wicked soundtrack, right? Nate knows every word, takes the lead vocals. We start getting the biz there. And, Connor, he starts to get noticeably looser as the night goes on. And eventually, we're having a good time. He excuses himself to use the outdoor stall, right? The three of us stay inside. We're just sitting around this little propane heater talking about life, our goals, right? And also the importance of flossing, right? Just dental hygiene, right? Really deep stuff. And then we hear it, a loud bang. From the darkness, a muffled yell, "Help me!" Right? We throw open the door and we sprint towards the sound. The stall, which had been upright minutes earlier, is now tipped over and slowly sliding down a small snowy hill like a haunted sled. Okay, we chase it down. It's not a huge hill, but emotionally, it felt like Everest. You remember this, Nate?
Mm-hmm.
By the time we reached him, the situation had gone from unfortunate to completely unmanageable. All right. We run down to see if he's all right. And pretty much the worst had happened, right? He was covered in, the insides of a porta potty, right? He was just completely covered head to toe. It was like when Britney Spears did that porta potty stunt on Jackass. You ever see that, Nate? What I'm talking about? Anyways, just a rough look for Connor. To make matters worse, it was starting to harden due to the extreme cold, right? To the point that Connor couldn't move, right? He was in essence a complete poopsicle. Okay. Panic kicks in. We don't know. We don't have time. All right. We realize there's only one thing that can save him: a warm triple stream rescue. Okay. Nate and Josh are in position immediately, right? These guys are veterans, but I look down and realize my Temu long johns have absolutely no front access point. Okay. Zero foresight from the manufacturer. Sorry. The rescue isn't working, right? He's starting to tilt, right? Another few degrees over Connor Hellebuyck, he's rolling down the hill like a frozen bowling ball. Okay. So I make a real-time decision. The boys were already in full rescue mode. Stream in the air, panic on their faces. We're losing ground. Without a third stream, nothing's happening, right? We need the PSI. Okay, so I look down. I realize the truth. Temu betrayed me. First of all, no flap, no fly, nothing, right? These long johns were built like a maximum security prison. Okay, but I look out and I see sticking out of the snow near one of the ice holes a fishing hook. Okay, I pick it up in my frozen fingers. I stared at it for a second. Nate goes, "You thinking what I'm thinking?" And I go, "I don't know what you're thinking, Nate, but I'm just going to use this to open up my fly so I can start whizzing on Connor Hellebuyck, right?" I hooked up to the fabric of my long johns and just started ripping, not delicately. All right, this was survival mode. Full strength, fabric flying, threads popping like fireworks in a silent winter sky. It was like opening a bag of chips with absolute fury. What the hell, Nate? I'm so sorry about this. Within seconds, airflow, all right, hope, freedom. I said, the stream is back online. We re-engaged the rescue, okay, perfect formation. And just like that, the situation was stabilized. We were able to thaw out Connor Hellebuyck, right? And we knew that he was grateful, but it wasn't exactly written on his face, understandably, right? We finally get Connor Hellebuyck back to the cabin, steam rising off him, soul visibly altered. And we sit him down in front of the heater, wrap him in 7 mismatched towels, and give him a mug of something warm we don't remember making. And for a while, he just stares at the wall. But then he stands up slowly and his face goes blank. You remember this, Nate. Not confused, not scared, just blank, like he's buffering, right? He looks down at his knee and he whispers, "It's waking up." And we ask him what that means, right? And he says, "It knows what happened." Then the knee makes a sound, not a crack, not a pop, but like a hum. You remember that hum, Nate? Low, mechanical, ancient. Okay. His kneecap starts glowing faintly blue. It's been activated by something we don't even understand. Nate leans in and goes, "Is it talking?" And Connor just nods, right? It's telling me I'll be unavailable for the next 4 to 6 weeks, right? And Nate, like he slowly sits back down, completely calm, like a man who just accepted a prophecy. He looks at us totally serious and says, "If anyone asks, I was never here," right? And then we just wrapped his knee in a freezer pack that said, "Live, laugh, love," and laid him down on the couch like a fallen general, right? He just fell asleep whispering the word Vesna over and over again. But it was then when I realized something, Nate, and this story is coming to an end, folks. Thank you for your patience. First, we're not getting our cleaning deposit back on this rental, right? It smells like baby food in here. And lastly, brotherhood isn't built on normal moments. It's built when your friend's knee starts glowing and whispering prophecy in the darkness. You can't schedule chaos. You can't predict when things will break. And you can't plan for the night to get strange enough to change you forever. All you can do is stand shoulder to shoulder with your brothers on a frozen lake while reality bends slightly out of shape. That's crossing the streams.
Oh, wow. I guess we will just wait for the cease and desist letter from Connor Hellebuyck's lawyers at this point. But thank you for that, Blake. Thank you for taking us on that vivid journey to Lake Winnipeg, which I don't even know is actually covered in ice at this moment.
No, I Googled it. All right. Well, I don't know. I Googled. I'm sorry, folks. That's terrible. We got to talk about the best teams to stream. The good news is, folks, there's not very many of them. All right. As we've discussed, okay, we got 3 teams here that have 4 games with 2 off nights, and they are the Dallas, I was going to say Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Ottawa Senators, and the Washington Capitals. Again, 4 games with 2 off nights. Dallas plays Tuesday, Wednesday back to back. Then they play Friday, Sunday. Ottawa plays Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, Sunday. And then Washington plays Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So let's talk about some of these. If you're looking at a week-long stream, let's look at I'm still processing that story. Let's look at Dallas first off, Nate, here. And we got some bits and pieces here in Dallas. Like Jamie Benn has returned. I don't know what your interest level is there. And we also have Tyler Seguin, who's been, doing stuff out here. You got Maverick Bork. I mean, I don't know. You've got some beefer options as well. Talk to me about the Dallas Stars and then what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, it's hard to be excited about
Yep.
these options. Tyler Sagan playing with J Rob. I mean, J Rob's absolutely
He's
just
good.
demoing the league at this point. So there's that, and anybody alongside him should probably be rostered in a lot of formats. That being said, Tyler Sagan's underlying stuff individually looks pretty bad. So it's not like he's really bringing anything to the conversation himself. He's just kind of along for the ride. Jamie Benn was playing on the line with Johnston and Rantanen in the last game, which is basically the extent of his fantasy relevance as well. Definitely a distant third in terms of his offensive contributions at this point in his career. But yeah, I mean, if you really want to get those two those two off nights this week, then you could do worse than looking that way. Uh, Beyond that, like I just can't get there with anybody who's not in the top six, not looking like they're getting that Rentonen or that Robertson exposure, that Johnson exposure, even.
Yep.
So those are the two guys I'm really looking at from Dallas if I need those two games.
Yeah, week-long streams just doesn't feel good here. Like I feel like if you're going to do a one-game stream, you're going to want to do it on the Sunday, right? And just go for broke, like Hail Mary and pick up one of these guys. But yeah, it's not exciting stuff. Let's move on to Ottawa here. We got the Pinto Bean. Shane Pinto still doing stuff. He's on like a 40-goal pace, just as we prognosticated here at Apples and Ginos. Dylan Cousins is out there. Claude Giroux as well. It's just recently been moved up to power play one, doing stuff. Talk to me about how you're sort of ordering those players there on Ottawa.
Yeah, I think you probably want to just take the guys who are on the top power play. I mean, I'd love for Shane Pinto to be on the top power play. It just seems like that will quite literally never happen as long as Travis Green is coach there. And we just kind of have to accept that for what it is. I do like Shane Pinto here. Claude Giroux has some actually pretty nice underlying numbers of these three, so I think I'd go Giroux, then Cousins, then Pinto.
Pinto a third. Oh my God. Blasphemy. Let's move on to the Washington Capitals. All right. And I don't want to hear anybody talk about dropping Alexi Protas. All right. We hold until the wheels fall off. All right. But he's 57% rostered. Yeah. Luckily, he got off the schneid the other night, got a goal. But I think that's a player that should be rostered for this weird week. But I mean, you don't have to. You got him. You got Connor McMichael. You got Ryan Leonard, who may be the best forward on the Capitals. What say you, Nate?
Some are saying this for sure. McMichael and Leonard were playing on the same line as each other, and I doubt that'll change after that big 8-4 win. That was also with Brandon Duhaime. So that's not exactly ideal in terms of even strength deployment. Obviously, neither of them are on the top power play, so it's hard to get excited about it. McMichael is at least hot at the moment, and he's getting like a good amount of minutes overall. So yeah, I think McMichael is a reasonable option in some deeper formats this week. But I mean, I want Leonard to get this because his
Yeah.
underlying numbers have been consistently great all year. And if he ever got into the top six consistently, if he ever got on power play one consistently, I do think it'd be blast off time.
Yeah, I love that. I'll reiterate that. Like, this is a guy that is ready to pop, but he needs the minutes to do it. So there you go. We're not going to get into this next little bit here. There are 10 teams that play Monday and then also on Saturday if you happen to have an open spot on that 11-game slate. But we're not going to get into that. We'll leave that to you to sort of take a look at the schedule and what makes sense for you. But again, there's just nothing really that you're going to that's going to really move the needle for you streaming wise here this upcoming week. So that's why this segment is so short. Nate, talk to us about the Patreon. That's what the people came to hear about.
All right, the Patreon is $2 a month for supporters. That gets you Apples and Ginos Patron League APL eligibility, put you on the wait list for now, and get you on a team if we get anybody falling out of the league for whatever reason. $8 a month Apples tier gets you APL eligibility, access to patron-only Discord channels, access to patron-only live shows, and also gets you access to the show notes, like the show notes for this episode right here. Also gets you access to the Apples and Geos player evaluation tool, which looks a little bit something like this. Shows you a guy like Braden Bowman popping off under the hood. So good stuff there. Let's get into the dream streams now. Dream Streams is basically where I rank all of the players with the best schedules for the week, for points, for hits, for blocks, whatever you need. For points, I do think I'm going to go with Sagan number one here, but realistically, this kind of feels like a tier between him and the three guys from Ottawa: Sagan, Drew, Cousins, Pinto. Pick your flavor. I think it's all pretty similar in my mind, and I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these guys outperform the other three. And then Connor McMichael and Ryan Leonard, I would have a tier down. I want to say on Leonard too, like because we like the underlying so much there, and we talked about this week being a week to wait and see and stash guys who you think might become something. This might be the week where he does get elevated up the lineup and actually does kind of pop off a little bit. That could be this week, and it's a week where you're getting those two off nights, so it's not a bad week to take that swing on Ryan Leonard. If you can't get any of these players in your league, just pray to the gods above for mercy on your soul and hope that things are better for you the week after. Best for hits, Liam Bichelle. Jamie Benn is back and doing that. Dylan Cousins does that. Nathan Bastian, Rasmus Sandin. Best for blocks, Matt Roy, Martin Ferrari,
The
Rasmus
Ferrari.
Sandy, and Ace Lindell, Artem Zub. Rasmus Sandy, your best all-around banger. I would say that's commonly available for both hits and blocks this week. All right, let's keep pushing. Let's get into Hold Me, where we talk about all the players we want to hold the most. First, we gotta say the graduated players, Yaroslav Askarov, I showed out last week. I don't think a lot of people realized how terrific he was being, and he shot up from, I think it was 38% roster last week. Now he's at 63, so people have finally caught on there. Tyler Bertuzzi, Pavel Zacha, Justin Falk, all above 50% as well now. The long-term plays at forward, and again, this is a week where you really might want to be taking a look at some of these guys if they are on the wire on your particularly league, then this might be the week that you really do want to go out and take a look at them and get them on your roster. Patrick Kane, number one, again for what feels like the 20th straight week already, 40% rostered. He ranks fifth in the entire league in on ice expected goals for per 60 over the last 5 games and 14th in individual expected goals for per 60. He's got 4 points in the last 5. It should be even more. I
It's
don't know
coming.
what more I can say about Patrick Kane. He should be rostered probably in the 80 to 90% range. So that's a big one. Adam Fantilli obviously has a big game here earlier this week against Toronto, including the OT winner, and he's still only at 43% rostered, which is pretty mind-blowing when you stop to think about it. William Eklund, Chris Kreider, Anton Lundell, Jerry McCann still on IR, but if he was healthy, this is where he'd slot in. Brock Besser, Matt Zuccarello, Matt Coronado is really steaming up this list based on what he's been able to do the last little bit and how much we really like that player. And keeping on going, I still have Jack Roslovic on the list. I still have guys like Burakovsky, Palmieri, Voronkov, Garland, Nazar, Huberto on this list. But that feels like a bit of a tier break for sure after that. Hopefully Burakovsky can get back after this injury and do that magic again with Connor Bedard, but definitely going to be at least another game maybe before he's back, and we got to see him in practice before we can even say that he's going to be playing again. So that's a spot for Burakovsky where we're just hoping that it goes back to the way it was. Dmitry Voronkov, one of everybody's favorite. He's like, I think he's like budget Gabriel Velarde a little bit, and he's going to have some weeks and some games where he really frustrates you and provides you nothing, and then he's going to have some big games as well. So I still think he's a guy who should be rostered in a lot of spots. And then we'll get into the lesser roster players. So sub 20% rostered, Coronado leads the list here. Jordan Eberle still here. Zach Benson, obviously, with the news of him coming back, he fits in this range here. Jackson Blake, 13% rostered as well. Jonathan Drouin, Alex Laferriere. But definitely the top three there, Coronado, Eberle, Benson, are guys that I'm quite interested in. Sub 10% rostered. So Beckett Seneke actually got up to 10% rostered, so he's barely hanging on here, but he has really come around again. I thought maybe he had kind of a hot start and then faded, and now he's coming around again. So that's actually a pretty good sign for the rookie there. So we'll give him the number one billing here. Braden Bowman being the line one, power play one option in Vegas was not on anybody's bingo card, I don't think, for the start of this season, but he is there and he's doing stuff right now. The underlines are actually looking pretty good for him. 65th individual expected goals for per 60, ninth in on ice expected goals for per 60, and just a tad under 17 minutes average time on ice in the last 5 games. So I like that one. Ryan Leonard here, Matthew Wood, Arseny Griciuk, Ryan Hartman on IR, but if he was healthy, would slot in here for me as well. And Oliver Bjorkstrand. Talk to me about any of these forwards that you like, Blake.
Yeah, obviously, to me, Fantilli and Kane. They got to be must rosters at this point. These guys got to be on your squad. And I like Frank Nazar low key. Coming back from injury with Burakovsky out, I think that he's his minutes are good. We've seen kind of proof of concept of them sort of leaning into Frank Nazar, so I think that's an interesting piece as well. And I like the Butler, Zach Benson, and Jackson Blake as well.
All right, on defense, long-term plays, Hampus Lindholm, Darren Radish. So Radish is obviously, you could argue about whether a 2-ish week timeline for Victor Hedman is a long-term play, but I at least want to shout him out here. So Lindholm is 10% rostered and Radish is 6% rostered, widely available still, and getting power play one deployment in place of their defensemen who have recently been injured. Artem Levshunov, 30% rostered. Ekman Larsson's at 47%, as is Philip Hronik. Bowen Byram is climbing this list for me and could go higher than Hronik and Ekman Larsson pretty soon if he continues to keep this up. Olen Zellweger, John Klingberg, I guess I have to include him as long as he's getting some power play one looks, but he's also getting scratched some games, so that's a pretty terrifying proposition overall. Matthias Ekholm, Brady Shea, Travis Sanheim, Chris Letang, Brant Clark are all in this range as well. Sub 20% rostered, it's obviously going to be Lindholm, Radish, Byram, Zellweger, Klingberg, Shea, and then throwing on Shimon Nemec there. Once again, I just like the player. I think he's got a lot of potential. He did obviously get demoted to the second power play unit with Dougie Hamilton coming back, which is sad but expected. So it might not be a guy that you're rostering in most leagues, but it's still a guy with a lot of talent that I wanted to keep on the list for that reason alone. Long-term plays in net, I think you got Akira Schmid here. As I mentioned earlier, does seem to be improving, and the last 3 games have been pretty good, so I like that. Jesper Wallstedt still only 40% rostered. Philip Gustafsson pitched a shutout here, so they're going tit for tat back and forth at this point. I think it's going to be a 50-50 split for the next little bit until one of them blinks, so it's a nice spot to be if you need some rate stats. Minnesota's got a good defensive environment more often than not. Jet Greaves, Joseph Woll, Dan Vladar, Arthur Shilovs, and then threw in Jake Allen. Markstrom has been dealing with something a little bit on and off, and that's kind of going to be a little bit of worry there. Jake Allen might be a guy, if you can get a couple of starts out of him in a week, you grab him for that week, and you might actually end up having somebody you want to hold. Sub 25% rostered. John Gibson and Cam Talbot are both sub 25% rostered. Every time I feel like I've got a handle on what they want to do with this tandem, it goes back the other way, and it feels like it's just a who's hot at this exact moment in time kind of situation. So if you can identify that, then more power to you. And I wanted to just mention Calvin Pickard had actually a pretty good game there in his last start, and we all know the struggles of Stuart Skinner as of late, so it wouldn't be too shocking for Pickard to have a little run here. Just wanted to shout him out. Anything in the defensemen or goaltenders you want to talk about, Blake?
I like Brant Clark and I like Shimon Nemec. I think those are some really nice upside plays there. Brant Clark, his minutes have gone up over the last 5 games. Still not power play one, but more minutes is good. I mean, that's a very talented offensive defenseman that I think can do a lot for fantasy.
Yeah, and I should also shout out Eric Comrie in here. He didn't make it into this list because the news happened today, and I usually prep a day before, but Eric Comrie should be in this list as well. I probably thinking about it live, which is always a great way to do it. But I'd probably put him just behind Wallstedt, but above Greaves at the moment. I could be persuaded that he should go lower, but
that makes me feel good.
Somewhere in that range for
dropped
sure.
Greaves twice to pick up some Eric Comrie, so there you go.
Yeah. I don't think, to be clear, I don't think I would actually drop Greaves to pick up Comrie, but if both were available to me, I think I might go Comrie. So that's that's where we're at. I think Greaves is a better goaltender for sure. I just don't know that he's going to get as many starts as Comrie over the next little bit. So that would be my logic behind that decision. All right, Blake, we got to talk about the head-to-head streamer deathmatch, and this was one where you were feeling your plums a little bit. I think at the beginning of the week, you had some good stuff happening with one Mr. Jackson Blake, and Ryan McLeod had himself a little bit of a night here in this big win for Buffalo. And would you look at that? After 3 games played, McLeod is up by 0.35 APL fantasy points. What do you have to say for yourself, Blake?
Just as I expected. I'm not concerned one bit. All right. Jackson Blake's going to bring us home. All right. We need to get the biz. I'm up 3-2. I got to go 4-2. All right. I cannot be tied with this man again.
All right. Well, that brings us to next week, Blake. We got to make the decision right here, right now. Who are you picking for your head-to-head streamer deathmatch for week 8?
You bet, buddy. I'm going to go with kind of a safe pick, but a guy that's getting some good opportunity moving forward, at least for this upcoming week, in Claude Giroux of the Ottawa Senators. 4 games, power play 1. That team seems to be figuring things out. Power play's reasonable as well. So I like my chances to get some points there.
All right, for myself, looking at these teams that do play 4 games this upcoming week, Vegas is on the list, and that means Braden Bowman is in play. This is a risky pick
Spicy.
for sure. It's pretty spicy. It's pretty risky. You went kind of risk averse with the Drew pick, and I went full risk. No risk, no reward is the way that I'm approaching this one. So we'll see. He could be off the top power play and top line by Monday when this starts to actually count for points. But I like what I see. Like the underlying stuff looks good. He seems to have found a little bit of a home there. I'm hoping it continues for at least one more week, and I can beat you with Braden Bowman. All right. If you made it this far, you should click the link in the description. Join the Discord community. Over 2,000 fantasy hockey managers in there talking about fantasy hockey every single day. If you also wouldn't mind, like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, all of that stuff really does help us out. But that is going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick and 18 Skaters. Many thanks to Matt Creamer for supplying the music for this podcast. That's it, folks. Much love.